Now, Ask Dr. Love with psychotherapist, author, love and relationship expert Jamie Turndorf, Ph.D. For expert advice on love and relationships, call into the show at 888-463-6748. That's 888-GO-FOR-IT. Or you can submit your question online at AskDrLove.com. Now, here's Dr. Love.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ask Dr. Love Radio. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf, and I'm happy to be with you for today's show, which I'm calling Erotic Workshop, Cultivating the Garden of Self-Love. So I want to ask you, because we're going to be talking about your soul today, do you really know who you are and how to properly use your gifts and talents? Are you just living rather than truly living out your destiny and your divine calling? Or do you feel more like you've just watched life pass you by, or it's passing you by even as we speak? Well, I want to introduce you to Michael Ross. He's the author of The Laws of Attraction, and this is a manual that helps you reach your potential. And he actually discovered this whole ministry, and that's what I'm going to call what he does, during a 7-year period of voluntary celibacy. And that's when he discovered his own divine calling. It was revealed to him. So let me introduce you to Michael Ross. Michael, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. How are you doing?
Hello. So welcome to Ask Dr. Love Radio. How are you?
I'm doing good today. I woke up looking forward to this, so I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. So talk to me, because, you know, a book like this is really a divine calling. What was it that happened to you that made you go into this period of celibacy that ultimately resulted in channeling all this divine wisdom? Tell me what happened.
Well, I basically came out of a pretty intense sexual relationship 6 months prior. I was transferring in the military to a new place, and when I got to that new place, I wanted to have a new beginning, but that beginning would only be complete with God. So it was basically me just, finding myself, coming to a new realization of, faith in existence that brought me to accept this assignment.
You know, usually when we are in our darkest points, we hit rock bottom, as we call it. That's often when we find whatever you want to call it, grace, God, divinity, Yahweh, whatever you want to call it. So the breakup was what did it for you. That just broke you open.
Pretty much, it was from that separation that I just knew that I didn't want that same type of relationship anymore. Meaning, I didn't want something that was going to end, or it was just temporary, or it was just, basically pretty much just sexual. There was none of the other components, really pretty much a part of the relationship, the emotional side, the mental side, the spiritual side. None of those things are pretty much engaged. So I just found myself at a place where I just wanted something more. And that's how I began to pursue it.
So tell me how the discovery went about when you said, I want something more. Did you start meditating? Did you go to church? How did you begin going from something's missing? I've just come out of this empty, meaningless sexual relationship. It's not deep. It's not fulfilling to my soul. So how did you go on the quest? What did you do?
Well, basically, like I said, when I was young, I was raised in church, but I didn't really have a relationship with God until I was like I said, older. She ain't asking me that. So I just pretty much...
Who are you talking to? You're not hearing voices, right?
Forgive me, someone.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I just
go.
Talked to somebody while I was on the radio.
Thank you so much for that. But yeah, pretty much that was what it was. Just as you just said, I just came to the point where, like I said, I just knew that I needed help in this area. I just knew that I kept making the wrong decisions. I kept choosing the wrong person. I couldn't find the right individual who was for me. And since I was, as you say, lost, that's who I turned to. That's when I really just turned to God.
And so you started going to church? Is that what you did?
Yeah, started going to church, started going to singles meetings. Holiness was always something that was just pretty much taught and preached. And I just began to, as you say, embrace the garment.
So the idea of being celibate, was that something that you felt was necessary? It was almost like a monastic experience.
It was pretty much what God demanded after that last sexual encounter. He pretty much gave me a command. He pretty much said, if you do this again, you'll get AIDS. So I took God pretty much seriously at his word at the time, and that is how I pretty much, engaged in this assignment of celibacy. He told me the next time you sleep with someone and you're not married, this could happen to you. So I took God seriously.
Wow. So this was quite a conversion experience for you. Extreme.
Yeah, it was sobering. It was very sobering. But, it paid off. As I stated in my book, that's how I met my wife. That's how I gained the family that I wanted. That's how I pretty much grew as far as understanding what relationships were all about. It was those 7 years of experience and just, like I said, learning from God how to love myself and then love someone else.
So what you're saying is extremely important because people don't realize this, and I said this in my newsletter this week. So often when we're empty inside, we look to grab hold of another person thinking that the other person is going to fill the emotional void inside of us, kind of be like the mother or father that we never had. But the imbalance just tips the boat. Obviously, if the other person feels like you are holding on to him or her to keep yourself from drowning, the person feels drained and you just drive the person away. So you stayed single, not only celibate, but single. You had no relationship during those 7 years?
It's not like I didn't date or I didn't go out or I just ostracized myself from society. But what I did do, like the first couple of years, I just pretty much got into the Bible. Like I said, church was my refuge. If it was open, I was there. I just stayed busy. And as I got engaged and busy in God, and I pretty much gave God my heart. So what had simply happened was, in me giving God my heart, he protected me from everyone or anyone that wasn't meant to be in my future.
Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is that one thing that's very hard for people to understand when you have grown up in a family where you were abused or abandoned, there is such a feeling of unworthiness. I am not lovable. My own parents didn't love me. So what you did was you sat really in the lap of God as though God is your father, and you allowed God to really raise you up and reparent you.
Agreed. Right. It's not that my mother didn't do a great job. She did. It's just I needed something else. And like I said, my father wasn't there when I was younger. I did have a good godfather, and he did. He helped me to, as you say, be a good young man. I wasn't out here just reckless and making, irresponsible decisions, but I was still not, as you would say, whole. Meaning in my heart, and like you say, loving myself. So it's when I started loving my own soul, I knew how I could actually love someone else.
That's because if you don't have that completeness and fullness and ability to love yourself, then you really have nothing to bring to a relationship. And then instead of coming to a relationship as an empty vessel or a little baby bird, I say, with your beak open, waiting for a worm to be dropped in, you're coming to a relationship with the perspective instead, when you're whole and your soul is filled, your well is full, then there's the image of the well overflowing with love. You're not drained. You just have so much love, you spill it onto the other.
Agree. And like you said, that's something that we all supposed to bring. Part of the reason, like I said, that dating is really hard is because a lot of people play games and we waste people's time. And, that's one of the reasons why I even said in my book, rejection is your friend. The people that rejected me, they weren't bad for me. They were really great for me because they really helped me to see where I was wasting my time, or it was a place that I didn't really need to stay. And, that's why, I always tell, like I say, young people when I talk to them or anyone else, never take a bad situation at heart, because it was something there that you were supposed to see and grasp from it.
Mm-hmm. So you reframe the rejection as a gift. Wow, thank you for helping me step away from you. Obviously, we weren't meant to be together. This wasn't the right fit.
Agree.
Know?
Right. I'm no longer wasting my time.
Right. I had a guy who called me it's actually in the afternoon yesterday, and he has this pattern in his relationships of chasing after women who don't have it to give, don't make him feel first, never have the time for him, don't give him, time during the week, constantly pursuing somebody who's not giving the right feeling to him. And then when the relationship ends, he blames himself and says, oh, I wasn't lovable enough, instead of, wow, that person wasn't the right fit for me. So
right.
People find it very difficult, but so often, this is the repetition compulsion that I talk about in my book, Till Death Do Us Part. We unconsciously are drawn again and again to partners who don't meet our needs because they are really recreating for us what we went through in our first families, where if we weren't loved enough or we were rejected or we were abused, we unconsciously are magnetized to people who are going to do exactly the same thing to us that hurt us when we were young, not because we're gluttons for punishment, but because we're hoping to recreate the original wound and get a different outcome. This time, mom will love me. This time, dad will love me. But, of course, this doesn't work because the person we choose is always limited and damaged the way the parent was, so that person can't give us any more or any better treatment than our parents did. So we just keep getting re-injured over and over and over again.
Right.
Is that what was happening for you?
No, I mean, I was, what you say is, I wasn't, like you said, I wasn't self-inflicting. I wasn't always finding toxic people, but it was to the point I wasn't finding a meaningful relationship. I mean, something that was, that was real, that went beyond the surface. It just went beyond, are we going to go to the show, or are we going to go out to dinner, or can we just go out and just walk, or, can we just hold hands and sit here and just talk to each other? And,
Now, Michael, here's the thing, which was so fascinating. You also recreated an experience that you went through that was a trauma where you said your dad wasn't there, your biological dad.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens for you is it's not that you picked somebody toxic, but because you didn't have that depth of connection with your father, you, without realizing it, were constantly choosing relationships that weren't depthful. They weren't full. They weren't complete because that was the injury that you had suffered. You just kept kind of grazing the surface, and that was that, and it wasn't a full, deep, complete, heartfelt connection.
Oh, I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
I just had to learn how to forgive someone. And I know that I'm not the only person who struggles with that. I just maybe, ran into it early on at around, like I said, 9 or 11. But that's just pretty much what happened. I had cut my father out of my life, not knowing the impact that it would have. And as I said, my 25 years of, walking with this weight, it was only until I forgave him and I kissed him on the forehead before he passed away that I pretty much, met that pivotal moment where I could, my life could be better. So
did that happen before you actually went into this monastic conversion experience? Did he die just before?
No, that happened when I was like between 9 and 11 years old. My father had said something to me that pretty much, made me upset, made me feel like I was a pest. He didn't live with us. So, we went to go see him. It was like in a bar or something like that. And he had just said something to me that made me, want to reject him and not want to be around him anymore. And, my pride got the best of me that day. I didn't know, again, like I was saying, being young, how much I really, really needed my father until after that. So it just pretty much was something, it was a lesson that I learned the hard way.
So what I was trying to get was when you turned away from him, so the relationship had this lack of completion, he hurt you and you pulled away. Did you kiss him on the forehead and make peace with him just before you awakened to your new purpose in life? How old were you when he died?
Well, like I said, he had moved out of the state because, like I said, he had had a stroke. And like I said, like I was saying in my book, the only parts of my father I got to see were the last strains of his pain, some of his his voice, his talk was slurred. I didn't get to see the good parts of him. You understand? That's all I was really trying to show everyone. You can miss out on a good person when you devalue someone. And sometimes in life, that's what we simply do. We devalue people not knowing how important or how precious the gift was until it's too late. So that's what I was really trying to show others through that experience. Not that I was trying to show a new awakening or a new level of understanding as far as love, but, we got to stop devaluing people because you never know why a person's in your life. And sometimes the people that we struggle with the most are the ones that are, the ones that are the most closest connected to it.
And that is the person that you're going to grow the most with. Your soul's going to develop the most as you resolve the issues with that person. I'm going to take a brief break, and I'm going to be back with you in a moment on Ask Dr. Love Radio.
You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. To speak to Dr. Turndorf live on the air, call 888-463-6748. AskDrLove.com is the web's premier relationship advice site since 1996. Visit AskDrLove.com to search thousands of free relationship advice articles on any relationship issue you may have. Or you can submit a question to her free advice column. However, if you're listening live, why not call in? Don't be shy. Dr. Turndorf wants to help you, and this is a unique chance to get a personal answer from one of today's most respected experts. So, if you have a question for her, please call in now at 888-463-6748. That's 888-463-6748. Now back to Ask Dr. Love with Jamie Turndorf, Ph.D. Once again, here's Dr. Love.
Hello again, and welcome back to Ask Dr. Love Radio. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf, and I'm talking with my guest, Michael Ross, who's the author of The Laws of Attraction. Michael, this is the segment in the show that I call Dr. Love's Quickie, and here I just always throw out a few of my tweets on the topic. So let me share a few of these with you and the listeners before we get back to talking some more. Okay?
Sure.
Here we've got one, the well-nourished soul is the soil of miracles. And another, surrendering the illusion of control is nourishing to your soul. Realize you're perfect in your imperfection, and you give your soul its proper protection. Try to say that one 3 times fast.
Right.
For true love to call, you must love yourself, warts and all. And to thine own self be true blue, and say goodbye to feeling blue. Your past may be imperfect, but your soul is perfectly perfect. And if you give your soul a daily feeding, your emotional garden will never need weeding. And last but not least, cultivate your own emotional garden, and you will reap a rich harvest in life and love. So, we were talking before the break about how you made peace with your father, and I kept on thinking that for you, making peace with him, loving him, accepting him, understanding him, was all part and parcel of your own evolution, because you really couldn't have a full and complete relationship, soul to soul, just not a superficial sexual relationship, until you made that full peace with your father, so that you became a whole person.
Right, that's what pretty much, like you said, took place,
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was saying, relationships are the framework of what our lives are built upon. So, like I said, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with others in your family, your relationship with your job, and your relationship with God, those are the 4 things that you're going to meet somebody with, no matter where you go in life. So that is what I was pretty much getting at. And after I got that relationship together, it was, free, like I said, as long as you are bound in unforgiveness, you are not free to love. So that's when I got freer, and my heart got open more to, like I said, what God was trying to help me to see all the time.
Now, I want to speak about the word forgiveness, because it's a word that's widely used in spiritual circles and religious circles, and people talk a lot about, you must forgive, you must forgive. Now, I come from a background of therapy. And of course, I'm also very spiritual, but I'm also a therapist first and foremost. And I like to make the distinction between forgiveness and acceptance, because very often when a person is on the journey of trying to work through feelings about something that's happened in the past, someone who's harmed us, when we say, you've got to forgive, if a person prematurely shoves forgiveness down his or her throat, the feelings are not gone. They're just buried in a shallow grave. We think we've forgiven, but we're still harboring anger and resentment. So what I say in the process of developing this forgiveness, instead talk about understanding and acceptance. Because if you can really put yourself in the other person's shoes and truly understand where that person came from, why he or she did what he did, and you understand, you will come to an acceptance, which on the path to forgiveness may be where you need to go first. I just accept it. I'm not saying that I'm totally letting go of my anger because maybe I need to be angry in this process, but I accept it. And then through the full understanding and acceptance, the forgiveness comes organically.
Okay.
It's a little distinction, because it very often I'll see people who say, "Oh, I forgave," and they haven't, because they haven't done the process, the working through the understanding, as you did. You came to truly see your father and understand your father and grasp who he was, his essence.
Right, I had to face something about myself that I didn't like.
What was that?
Well, my own, basically, like I said, my own pride. You know, I had to admit that I was wrong. I had to admit I needed my father. I had to come to the realization. I had to face a part of myself that I was pretty much trying to deny. And see, that's really part of the real issue here with forgiveness. I mean, you've got to take your own ownership of what is your part in this.
Whatever happened,
right.
Everything that happens to us, we have to look at our part. Nothing happens in a vacuum.
Right. Nothing.
Absolutely right.
So
absolutely
that's why I was saying, when I came to that part of me acknowledging what I had did and what was wrong that I had did. You know, I didn't let my children see my father. See, my father didn't do anything to my family. He
right.
did, but I took it out on them. And you know, and like I said, they should have had an opportunity to be around their grandfather. I mean, you see what I was saying? So it went a little deeper than that, and God was just trying to get me to help me face something.
And you had to own your part in carrying out a grudge and revenge and so on. We're going to take a break, and I'll be back in a moment on Ask Dr. Love Radio.
You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. To speak to Dr. Turndorf live on the air, call 888-463-6748. That's 888-463-6748. If you like what you're hearing, you can learn about Dr. Turndorf's techniques for turning conflict into connection and healing in her critically acclaimed, groundbreaking book, Till Death Do Us Part, Unless I Kill You First, a step-by-step guide for resolving relationship conflict. Find out more about this book and read a free excerpt by visiting AskDrLove.com. This is Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. And if you have a question for her, please call in now at 888-463-6748. This show is for you, the listeners, so please give her a call now. You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Jamie Turndorf, Ph.D. Once again, here's Dr. Love.
Hello again, and welcome to Ask Dr. Love Radio. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf, and I'm talking with my guest, Michael Ross, the author of The Laws of Attraction. So, Michael, I was interested to talk to you more about the self-love concept. Did it just come to you in a burst of light? Was it a process? How did you end up feeling this self-love that you didn't feel before? What was it like? How did it happen for you?
Self-love pretty much came to me after, like I said, after I started my relationship pretty much with the Lord. After I started really investing in my soul is when I really discovered the self-love process.
So describe that. Describe it specifically. What does investing in your soul look like? What did you do?
Okay, well, I took time to learn from what the Bible spoke about. I took time to, as you say, grow closer to God as far as in faith and in prayer. I took time as far as expressing that love that I found in Him to others, as far as trying to help other people overcome some of their own shortcomings. And the other process was I pretty much just understood that, I'm not perfect. I had some things that I need to fix. And it was only through God that I saw that He could make me better.
And then through this relationship with your father, you started to feel the love for yourself. You parented yourself through his love, setting limits on yourself, holding yourself accountable,
Right.
and affirming the love that was coming through God into you. Just all of these things nourished your soul and made you feel more loving. Did you actually find yourself engaged in ritual and prayer and
of course, prayer,
all of that every day?
Praise was definitely an instrument that I leaned upon heavily. Any place where I could invoke God's presence pretty much was how I found my way.
That's beautiful. All right, so tell me this, because I saw something in your book that I thought was kind of neat and applies to the topic that I talk about, which is finding your love, keeping your love relationship, so on. You have finding Mr. and Mrs. Right, and you have 12 questions that you say people should ask before having sex. So what are your questions?
Well, those questions are my questions, because had I asked those questions to most of the people that I had dated, I'm sure that I would have found somewhere in discovery that I wouldn't have pursued the relationship as far. Now, of course, when I was a younger man, I'm not going to lie, I was a very lustful young man. I just took things to heart. I let my loins lead me more so than my mind. So, but as I grew older and I saw that system wasn't working, like I said, God showed me a better way to try to get to know somebody. And I
like what you just said about you led with your loins instead of with your heart. That's a very good soundbite for you.
Yeah.
That really, really is, because very often we're talking about leading with the impulsive side of the self, the part that wants to seek pleasure, rather than the higher parts of the self, the mind, the heart.
Right, and your spirit. And that's why I said your soul does have input. Sometimes we just don't listen to it. And
not when you're leading with your loins.
There you go. Especially when we're leaning with our loins. So that's what I was saying. That's how I pretty much, like I said, that's how I came across these questions, because it was a composite of trying to get to know what you really should know about someone before you sleep with them. I mean, if you really ask most people, and I'm just talking about, 100 people, and you take those questions to them, and if you pose them to them, you said, do you know these things about the person that you're sleeping with? Most of them probably say no.
Absolutely. It's funny because I have, when people sign up for my newsletter, I have free download ebooks and tests, and one of them is called Critical Questions to Ask Before You Get Close.
Okay.
And these questions, and also I have another test which is called, Is He or She Ready for Love? And this one, Is He or She Ready for Love? A way for you to assess whether the person has baggage that you just shouldn't or nobody should have to handle. The person's not ready for a relationship. So can you tell me some of your questions, some of your 12 questions?
Sure. Some of my 12 questions?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Because that's why I was saying it goes without saying. Let me get it.
Maybe I caught you off guard with that. It's funny because people think, I've written all these books, and sometimes even though you've written it, you don't have it right in the forefront of your mind, what you've written, right?
Like you said, you put on the spot. But,
I don't want to put you on the spot if you're not ready to talk about that.
Oh no,
That's absolutely fine.
I'm fine. I am prepared. It was just like you were saying. I wanted to pick a question that I felt would help someone just pretty much see, where the other person is. Because when I asked, is he or she enough for me to grow with?
That's a good question.
And are they mature or immature? What really captivates you about the person you're with? I mean, when we talk about growth, you've got to look beyond the moment that you're in. You can't just see right now as everything, because your future is going to come at you just like a wave. It's going to wash over you sooner or later. So that was one of the things I wanted to see. I wanted to help other people, try to break the ice and really go deeper into the thing.
That's right.
Another question I had was, if by chance we had a baby together, how would that make you feel? If the first response is sadness, abortion, fear, or doubt, then just maybe the person that you're with is not worthy of all of you. I mean, we've got to really come clean here as far as how we approach a relationship. Some of us need icebreakers to just simply, like you said, break the ice, or whatever is trying to keep the relationship immobile or not moving or going forward. We've got to come out of the cocoon of, I can't say this because I don't know how the other person is going to respond.
Well, the thing is that if you think about the idea that of sex, the word to consummate means to bring to completion or fulfillment. So if you think about sex being the final act in a relationship, you need to really know whether this relationship is right for you and you're going to go forward in it before you actually have sex, because otherwise you're getting yourself all bonded to someone who may be very wrong for you. And then once you do have sex, you get more emotionally attached, and now you find yourself entrenched and entangled with someone who's wrong for you.
Agreed.
You know?
Right, but see, like you said, it all comes down to, can I trust him or her with a secret? See, some of us, like you said, even before we get in there, if you can't trust a person with a secret, then how can you share the most intimate part of yourself with that person? Something that no one else knows about you, but you can give the very, virtue of what you really are. You bare your soul when you have intimacy with someone. And
right.
That's how vulnerable you really are. And I don't think most of us really know how vulnerable we really are. We know physically vulnerable we are, but like you say, spiritually it goes a little deeper than that. Because that person's emotions, that person's feelings, and some of the things that they said are going to stay, they're going to resonate with you after that experience is over. And that's what I mean by the spiritual aspect of it.
So is one of your 12 questions designed to explore how the other person would handle a secret that you share? Would you be asking about that?
Well, like I said, what a person chooses to share with someone else, every person's intimate point is different. Like I say, yours and mine, we all come from different perspectives and how we look at things. But what I was simply trying to say is, at the heart of it, you have something about you that no one else knows about. And if the person that you with, you can't even share that with, then why are you sleeping with him? Why are you really going out on dates?
Wow, that's right. It's right on. So what are some of the other questions that you like people to ask before they have sex?
Okay, I said, when you kiss, squeeze, and embrace your companion, can you see yourself with this person for a short time, or a one-night stand, a long time, or your entire life? Is this a seasonal relationship? Let's just be honest for a moment here. Most of us, I learned, I'm speaking for myself, honestly. I had to walk away from many young ladies' houses at night, at that time of celibacy. Because, like I said, some ladies just wanted to test me and see, well, let's see if his words are as strong as his stamina seems to be. He says he's going to be celibate, so let's just test him here.
I'm going to test his loins and see if his loins are going to live up to his celibacy promise.
Right. And I've had females who did that, but it was only God who told me. He said, no, that's not the one, son. It's not the one. And see, it goes to the point where most of us sort of know. You can see someone past today if you really look hard enough. And some of us know before we go there if you don't really see this person in next month's future.
Right.
You got to start seeing it. And that's what my book really tries to help a person do. Come clean about what's really holding you back from really going forward in your relationship. Just come clean about it. Stop trying to say it was him, it was them, it was somebody else. Or, look inside of yourself and really start asking those deeper questions of what do I really want from this thing? Okay? I asked, here we go. Here we go. Describe together what are the necessary components for a strong, lasting relationship. Write down your answers and see if any of the responses are the same. See, how you look at love and how someone else looks at love is important. And if you don't look at it together the same way or even similar, then maybe it's just you guys aren't, meant to be together. What you're saying, there's all kinds of science to confirm what you're saying. I say until death do us part unless I kill you first, you need to have homogamy, which is the fancy term for similarity. Mm-hmm. Because couples who share the same values and beliefs and attitudes do better together. They are happier for the long haul. Right. So what you're inviting people to do is take a look at how homogamous we are. Do we have the same idea of what love is? Right. Do we have the same long-term vision for love? Now, of course, things can change, but at least at this point, you want to see if you're on the same page when you're forming the relationship. And that is, like you said, you hit the head right on the nail, because it's in the beginning where it's how you start, it's how you'll end. And sometimes we start dishonest, we don't start being truthful, we don't really come clean about what we really feel or what we really want, that we begin to accept some things that we never should have tolerated or even, like you said, as you said, engaged in. Because if we were just truthful, some of those things would have been negated in the beginning.
Right on. So any other questions before having sex?
Sure. I just said this one, especially for young people. The final question is, how are we both doing financially? How much education has each of you completed? And as a couple, are you prepared to begin your family, or should you just wait? And see, sometimes you got to ask yourself, am I really ready to go all the way? And I don't mean just going to bed, because when you wake up, if you're alone, you're going to be as worse off or even worse off than you were before you got there, because you didn't get what you wanted. All you did was you satisfied a momentary feeling, but you're still hungering for the longer thing, which is the relationship, the commitment. And some of us don't fight to have a commitment. And that's sort of our real issues. But like I said, I used all of these just as icebreakers for people to get to know the person that they're dating a little bit better. And hopefully after
Let me ask you this, because I can't help it. Dr. Love is so nosy. I just got to ask you. How'd you meet your wife? How did it go? Did you ask her these questions? Tell me some, give me some dirt here.
When I met my wife, I was at church. I was at the time I was at an all-white church, believe it or not. And like I said, I was there for like 2 or 3 years. I went to a lot of singles meetings. Of course, I met women at the singles meetings, but I just didn't click with anybody. So I came back, my pastor, and I had a sister in the church. Her name was Tammy, and it was through her that she knew Sinjura and I, so she pretty much brought us together. We had a skating event at our church, and Sinjura came out, and that's pretty much how we met. And it was after we met, yes, I did tell Sinjura about me being celibate and how I was waiting on the Lord to send me a wife, and I let her know that this was important to me, and not having sex was not the forefront of the relationship that I wanted to delve into. I really wanted to get to know her emotionally. I really wanted to know her, mentally. I wanted to go to the bigger parts of the relationship, because those are the parts that we're going to spend the most time in. And wonderful. That's what helped us.
Was she happy? Did she like this?
Did she like this? No, because I wasn't always the most charming person. I was, like I said, I was alone for over 7 years, so I was a little selfish. I had to grow out of some things. When you walk alone, you do tend to, like you said, gain your own identity, find your own ways or your own mindset of how you want to do things. So I had to learn how to share and, like you said.
All right. I'm going to take a brief break. I'm going to be back with you in a moment on Ask Dr. Love Radio. When I come back, I'm going to be asking you some other stuff because I want to hear more about this relationship with her. I'll be back with you in a moment on Ask Dr. Love Radio.
You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. To speak to Dr. Turndorf live on the air, call 888-463-6748. That's 888-463-6748. If you've recently been through a breakup and are looking for a second chance, wondering how you can reconcile with your ex, or if it's even possible after all you've been through, Dr. Turndorf's latest book, Make Up, Don't Break Up, presents her 5-step plan for reconciling with your ex. This plan was developed out of years of research, working with thousands of couples at her Center for Emotional Communication. This is a proven no-hype and no-nonsense method that gets right to the root of the problem to guide you to the right path towards reigniting a lasting relationship. For more about Make Up, Don't Break Up, visit AskDrLove.com. You're listening to Ask Dr. Love with Jamie Turndorf, Ph.D. Once again, here's Dr. Love.
Hello again, and welcome back to Ask Dr. Love Radio. I'm talking with Michael Ross, the author of The Laws of Attraction. So, Michael, we were talking before the break about the fact that you told your wife-to-be that you had made a celibacy vow and that you really wanted to devote yourself to getting to know her on a non-physical level. And I thought she would have jumped for joy at that. The idea that here I have this sensitive guy in front of me who wants to know my soul and understand me. And you said she wasn't so excited about that.
Well, no. What I meant to say is I didn't verbatimly say these things to her. I had spoken to my wife, like you were saying, like during the break, and how she thought I had asked these questions, and she said I pretty much did it through my action, and it was through my lifestyle and the way I carried myself. And we didn't put sex in the forefront. I let her know that the emphasis is not us coming together, but more it's really just coming together in an emotional and like I said, in a mental part as far as building on it. Because, like I said, we've been together, we're going on 18 years now, and it was because of the way we started. We didn't try to begin our relationship sleeping with each other.
Well, you know what? All the research says, there was a research published a few years ago, I don't know if you heard about this, that couples who wait, how many months do you think that they wait to have the happiest long-term marriages? There's a magic number. You know what the number of months is?
The minimum months?
No, the magic number. This research studied all kinds of couples all over the world and looked at how long they waited before having sex, before, they were in a relationship. How long did they wait before they had sex? And there was a magic number that seemed to be highly correlated with long-term marital satisfaction. It was 4 months. Couples who seem to wait that long to really build a friendship and really get to know each other and then consummate the relationship are much happier relationships. So did you and your wife wait even longer than that?
Right, we did wait longer than that because, like I said, we were both Christians. So yes, we did. But we were only we dated for a year and 8 months when we got engaged, and then 8 months later we got married. So you can't be around somebody, because what had happened with me was she was my best friend, like you had just stated. Because we were always interacting, talking, and I knew that I saw something in her that it might be, as you say, a part of my future. So since God said, since you see her this way, maybe you should just spend more time with her. So I just tried to see her every day, because I said if we ever got married, I wasn't going to live with her. So I said if we were ever going to think about getting married, I should just spend time with her every day to see how it was going to be. And that's what I pretty much did. I made her a part of every day of my life until we built up to the point of we getting married. And it just helped us transition from not living together to living together, because we got to know each other even more. So that was pretty much it. Yeah.
And you've been together for 18 years, so congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, August will be 18 years.
That's beautiful. Well, tell your wife Dr. Love says hello. So now, tell me about this phrase you talk about, the butterfly effect. What are you talking about when you say that?
Well, I am saying the butterfly effect is pretty much when a female is drawn sexually to a young male, and she pretty much loses all of her other perspective, or this one sensation or this emotion pretty much dominates or takes over every other sense that she pretty much has, meaning that she can't really carry herself in a manner that's almost good for her, because she just feels complete just being with this one person. So that's what I was meaning by the butterfly effect. A young woman just pretty much loses herself because she's sexually drawn to a male, that she just loses her mind.
Like a moth to a flame. That moth is drawn to his loins. And that's the end of it.
Right, and I know it feels good, and sometimes, we think this is the kind of person that we need to have in our lives to make us feel this way, but, I mean, a lot of us need to just admit, when you're so taken over, you have this euphoria about someone that everything about them is just, you're almost magical, but nothing is really connected to the earth at this point that you're in this little place. We do a lot of like I said, sometimes we make some decisions that are just not best for us. Because our mind is not pretty much, as you said, held. It's not ruling us at this point. Our emotions are. And
your loins.
Or your loins, right, yeah.
That's the loin effect. There's sirloin and tenderloin. Now, I'm not going to go on with the meat. So now tell me about this. You talk in your book about relationships being the key to discovering your destiny. Tell me more about what you think there.
Well, what I think is, I had said it a little bit earlier, but I'll repeat it again. You know, your relationship with yourself, your family and others and friends, your relationship with your job, and then your relationship with God. Those 4 areas are going to always be a part of your life. And see, it's in this area where whoever you allow to influence or identify with is going to ultimately change or possibly influence your destiny. So that's why I was trying to say relationships are very important, because you could meet the wrong person and it could just change your whole total direction and going forward in your life, someplace, depending on who it is or what impact you allow that person to have in your life.
Okay, and I would add to this that our relationships are the soil where we develop our souls. I mean, our purpose here on earth is to really evolve as soul beings, you know, to prepare us for leaving our bodies and living in soul or spirit form. And the people who come into our lives, friends, families, loved ones, spouses, they are here to really help us in our soul schooling.
Right.
That we are designed to really perfect our ability to love each other always more perfectly and more selflessly. And the relationships that we're in are the greatest soul challenges of all, because people come with their own different needs and thoughts and feelings and opinions, and they're constantly impinging on us. And here we're being tested always. Can we be more loving? Can we get out of ourselves? Can we really work to really listen and understand the other person? Our soul muscle is being stretched always in our relationships.
Agree. And see, that's what I was trying to say. But when a relationship usually fails, and this is what I said in my book, you know, the first question is what you should really ask yourself is, can you afford this relationship? Because the reason most relationships fail is because you find yourself at a place where you can no longer either contend or afford to put all of yourself into it anymore. And see, that's what I was trying to tell a lot of people. You know, you got to ask yourself, are you doing more, or are you overcompensating in a place where it's not needed? I mean, sometimes we give some things to certain people and it just doesn't resonate in the person for you. I mean, we just got to come to the point where we just sort of understand that, you know, it's important for you to really assess in a relationship like you do a job. You can't live up to every job that you're offered. And the same thing is with people. You can't live up to every relationship that comes across your path.
But every relationship is inviting you to stretch your soul muscle, questing after the life of perfection, to always be better. Somebody wrote to me this week, thank you, Dr. Love, for inspiring us to always try to be better, because that's really what we're here for, to love better. So
right.
Tell me this, you do a lot of work now to help youths, right?
Yes,
so
ma'am.
Talk more about that. What is this project that you have to help youths?
Well, New Foundation Youth Outreach is something that my wife and I were pretty much passionate about. We were doing it in church for a number of years, and now we're trying to come out to the community and do it in a greater fashion. It's where we have workshops, and we have classes, and we have outings, and we try to build events that are just gauged around young people and trying to, as you say, plant something positive and, as you say, plant a seed that will hopefully resonate into a better future for our society. That's pretty much what our goal is trying to rescue our youth by any means necessary. We trying to, change this mindset of having children too young or entering into relationships that we're not ready with, or avoiding AIDS or avoiding prison, or keeping your name clear, understanding the value that you're your own CEO. How people perceive you is how your name is going to be presented to others. You can do something with your name. You can make your name great only if you make the right decisions.
That's nice. You're your own CEO.
Right.
So present yourself well. But what you're really doing here is not only healing for all these young people that you get in touch with, it's healing for the young boy in you who didn't connect with his father. Because what you're doing is really being a wonderful father. And as you father all these lost souls, these young people, you're really fathering the young part of you. It's a wonderful thing.
Agree. Yeah, right. It is self-medicating, but like you said, it's
healing.
Right.
So,
right. It just brings back, like you said, it was hard for me when I was a younger man to, like you said, make some of the decisions that I had to make because my father wasn't there. And my godfather, like I said, he did step in and he did a great job as far as helping me to, like I said, find out if I want to be a good man or a bad man and all of those other things. And that's why I just came to the realization that no younger man is going to know himself to be a good man unless a good man comes before him and talks to him. unless he goes and shares.
Do you have kids of your own?
Sure, I have 2 boys and 1 girl. My girl.
Oh. And how old are they?
15, 13, and 9.
That's wonderful. Now, so this project, if people want to hear more about this project, how can they find out about the project you're talking about?
The project that I'm speaking about is called nfyo.net. And that's newfoundationyouthOutreach.net, and it's on the web, and I pretty much outline our vision, what we want to accomplish. We're always looking for team members. We're always looking for people to want to, as you say, support us as far as trying to do more for our youth, because I drove a school bus for over a year, and that's where God had pretty much spoke to me, and I saw so many young people coming to school with so much baggage on them. They just pretty much look like no one cares about me. Really just cares about how I'm feeling or what's going on in my life. And that's what pretty much struck me, struck a chord in me to pretty much try to, fill some of that void for some of these young people. Of course, a lot of our young people, they come from decent homes, and I'm not ever going to say that all our homes are dysfunctional or just without, love or compassion, but there are some that come that are a little bit troubled or challenged. And those are the ones that we got to understand, and that's what God had just pretty much told me. He said, don't judge them, son. He said, love them where they are, because you don't know what they've observed. You don't know what they've seen. You don't know what they've heard. You don't know. And see, it was just because of that, it just sort of helped me to just look at each one of them and I see their potential. I don't see them, I just see their potential. And that's what I want to cultivate. And it's just like the book. I want to try to cultivate other people to see their hidden potential. The part of themselves that they don't tap into the most. But it's always been there, just resonating, waiting to be brought to the surface. But again, it's only when we take the time to do so that we really find ourselves and what we really
it's also a being willingness to sit in silence and solitude and listen, because you hear all your answers about who you are, what your purpose is, what's your destiny. You hear it in the silence. In the silence of meditation or prayer or sitting in nature, whatever it is that taps you in to the source.
Right, and that's just it. We're all connected here. I mean, we're neighbors. And the day that we all come, to the realization that everyone that you see is important, and I mean that wholeheartedly, because we all are gifts. Each and every one of us are created for something, a purpose. Each of our lives have value, and that's one of the things I sort of like pinpoint on in my book, because I'm not only talking about the relationship, like you said, you have with someone else. I really dove into the relationship of you and your dreams.
That's true.
Go ahead.
The dreams all stem from the seed of your soul. I wish I could speak with you more, but we're coming to the end, and I just want to make sure the listeners know how to find your book, The Laws of Attraction. How can they find it?
Sure, they can go on Amazon or any other online bookstores. They're all there. Barnes & Noble, Author House, any other online bookstores. The book is there. I think on Amazon they allow you to actually go in and look at the first 20 pages or so. But I just wanted to, like I say, encourage the readers just to start looking at themselves, beyond the surface. Go inside and really see what your soul has to offer you. It has more than what you think.
And then also when you know that, you know what your soul has to offer the world. And you are a wonderful gift to the world, to your children, your wife, the children you help, the people who read your book. And I thank you for taking the time to be with me and share your message with my audience. And I wish you all the best.
I appreciate you, and I thank you as well.
Take care. And that's all I have for you today on Ask Dr. Love Radio. I'll be with you again next week for a very provocative topic. I have a guy who wrote a book, and you'll hear all about it. It's a cynical view of relationships. See you next week on Ask Dr. Love Radio.